We're not doing it. It's not a whoops, we missed it this time. It's a we're not doing it. I see. Okay, okay. Yeah, that's good that you.
Building a better Bay Area. Moving forward, finding solutions. This is ABC7 News.
Hi there, I'm Kristen Z. You're watching Getting Answers live on ABC7, Hulu Live, and wherever you stream. We ask experts your questions every day at 3 to get answers for you in real time. Today, San Francisco Mayor London Breed will join us live. We have a lot to talk about, including an In-N-Out in the city shut down for not checking customers' vaccine proof, and dangling cash to stop auto burglaries. Also dangling cash to increase vaccinations amongst young people. Also, how would you like to work a full-time job 4 days a week? We'll explore the growing movement with a Bay Area company that's doing it from top to bottom. But first, with news about mixing boosters and vaccines for kids, we have a whole lot of COVID-19 headlines to cover. So if you have any questions and you're joining us on Facebook Live, go ahead and enter your question there, and I'll try to get to our experts and pose those questions. But joining us in just a moment is UCSF infectious disease specialist Dr. Monica Gandhi to talk a lot about what's going on. But first, real quickly, just a note, President Biden is meeting with progressive and moderate Democrats at the White House today as he continues to try to build a consensus to pass his agenda. Both sides are citing headway in negotiations after months of delays. All right, we'll get more to that later on today on ABC7 News at 4. But I want to get back to Dr. Monica Gandhi, who is joining us because the FDA is meeting on boosters this week, and it looks like the panel is leaning toward recommending the same shot but allowing mixing and matching. Dr. Gandhi, can you give us the details on that?
Yes. So what happened last week when the FDA reviewed the Johnson & Johnson on Friday, Moderna on Thursday, is just the day before there was a mix and match study from the NIH that looked at the combinations of products. And what that would mean would be a Johnson & Johnson with an mRNA or vice versa, and really saw higher antibody responses, especially if you got a Johnson & Johnson followed by a Moderna or a Pfizer. So there was that, and then we had an incredible study just this morning from Sweden that showed if you had a Johnson & Johnson equivalent, it's called AstraZeneca, followed by an mRNA vaccine, you were more protected by 20% higher against symptomatic COVID. So all this data put together means that mixing and matching is likely could not only be allowed, but probably encouraged, at least for Johnson & Johnson.
All right. Mixing and matching, by the way, is something that's been done before with other vaccines, right? Even HIV?
Yes, I mean, not HIV because we're still waiting for a good HIV vaccine, but this is done often in the setting of vaccines. We never actually even know what brand we get. If it's measles, mumps, rubella, it will be a different brand. The point about why this would be better is the DNA vaccine and the RNA vaccines actually code for a slightly different part of the spike protein. So in a way, you're raising an antibody response against a more longer unit, a longer diverse part of the spike protein.
Got it. Okay. And by HIV, I meant experimental, of course, because as you said, there isn't actually a vaccine out there right now approved and in use. But what's such a recommendation? Okay. Wouldn't such a recommendation, of allowing mixing make the J&J booster, which was approved, essentially unnecessary? I mean, with its efficacy and what people think about it, don't you think people just won't get it?
Well, it's true that the one combination that worked the best after Johnson & Johnson was getting a Johnson & Johnson and then followed by a Moderna or Pfizer. Now, that was just antibody data from the NIH. But the study today really nailed it, which was the Swedish study that looked at our friend, it looks like Johnson & Johnson. It's a DNA with an adenovirus around it called AstraZeneca, and followed by an mRNA vaccine. It actually clinically protected you more. So yes, I do think that as a clinician, I'm going to make the recommendation after Johnson & Johnson for an mRNA vaccine after that. Mm-hmm. And it's going to make the second shot of Johnson & Johnson not as appealing.
Right. Okay. General Colin Powell's passing yesterday had vaccine hesitant folks again asking, hey, isn't that proof that the vaccine doesn't work? Before you answer that, I should point out today we also learned that his wife Alma was also fully vaccinated, was infected with COVID, but has been treated and has been sent home now. Can you analyze their situations and tell us what you think they actually show about vaccine effectiveness?
Yes, I mean, the vaccines work really well. I am sorry for his passing, but what happened here was that he was being treated for multiple myeloma and then had this chronic sort of immunocompromised condition as a result. Where the vaccines work the best are really in young immunocompetent people, and there are going to be some severe breakthroughs. It's a total of about 5,000 in this country that have been severe breakthroughs like this and have passed. And in that setting, they are usually 85% are over 65, and there are multiple other conditions like immunocompromise. So they're not foolproof, but the number of deaths that we've averted, there was just CDC data yesterday, you're 11 times more likely to die if you're unvaccinated across all age groups than if you're vaccinated in this country since the Delta variant.
Okay. Question from Erica about how concerned should I be about myocarditis, that's the heart inflammation, with my 18-year-old son if he were to get an mRNA booster after getting the J&J shot back in March? He's otherwise healthy.
Great question. So the myocarditis cases that we see that are rare and mild, but they are absolutely there, are mostly in young males like your 18-year-old, but they're after the second shot of the mRNA vaccine. So in this case, kind of has this very good situation where got a Johnson & Johnson now getting an mRNA. We don't see it after the first shot of the mRNA, and they're very different. We don't see Johnson & Johnson myocarditis. So he should be good with the mRNA second shot.
Okay, thanks. Andrea wants to know, what about having Moderna vaccines and then a J&J booster? Would that work the same way, the concept of mixing and matching?
So that concept is definitely there, except for the fact that the mix and match study from the NIH didn't show that you necessarily got higher antibodies with mRNA followed by Johnson & Johnson. There's something about the priming, this first one with Johnson & Johnson, the second one with mRNA that works better. So no, getting a Johnson & Johnson after mRNA, you could do it if you're concerned about anything else, side effects or anything else, but there's not data that it's better.
Got it. Okay. And some folks want to know, can you tell them about super immunity, whether that is really a thing from being infected with COVID and then getting the vaccine?
It is a thing. So this is called hybrid immunity. I think I'd refer people to the best paper on this in science. It's called Hybrid Immunity by Shane Crotty, C-R-O-T-T-Y. And it really is that your antibodies, if you've been infected and then you get a vaccine, are more in breadth, and they're kind of super antibodies. Now, by the way, it works the other way too. Getting vaccinated and then getting a mild infection afterwards, like Colin Powell's wife, that will also boost your immunity and get into this hybrid immunity situation where you have stronger and more durable immunity than if you got the vaccine or a natural infection.
Okay. Fan wants to know, if you're over 65 with underlying health conditions and you got the Moderna vaccine, how risky is getting Pfizer as the third shot, especially with dosage issues?
Not risky at all. And in fact, the Pfizer is less of a dose. It's 30 micrograms, whereas the Moderna booster that's going to be approved next week is 50 micrograms. And we don't need all that microgram, meaning for a booster especially. Usually boosters are less of a dose. So getting a Pfizer right now is perfect.
All right, Dr. Monica Gandhi, always great information. Thank you so very much on clarifying the latest booster news. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next, we'll have San Francisco Mayor London Breed joining us. We have a lot to cover: vaccines and crime. We'll be right back.
In commercial break.
All right, everybody, thanks for your many great questions today. We have San Francisco Mayor London Breed coming up, so I'm very excited about that. While we wait for the mayor, let's just check some of your questions here. Would one have a super immunity after getting the booster shot, third Pfizer shot? Yeah, I don't think we have data comparing, how much immunity, comparing after getting the booster versus getting COVID and then getting your regular vaccines. But definitely we know that your antibodies will go up, your antibody level will go up after getting the third Pfizer shot. And that, there's kind of a decrease, especially with the Pfizer, like at the 6-month mark. So the antibodies will go back up after the Pfizers, and that should lead to more immunity in theory. All right. Erica, great question. I hope Dr. Gandhi was able to help you out. All right, I'm going to take a short break, everybody. Drink my water. All right, San Francisco Mayor London Breed joining us next.
4, 3, 2, 1.
A big announcement today by San Francisco in its bid to curtail organized crime. Also, San Francisco has just sweetened the pot for young people to get vaccinated in the city. Joining us now to talk about these issues and more is San Francisco Mayor London Breed. Mayor Breed, good to have you on.
Hi, how are you, Kristen?
I'm doing just great. Thank you so much. I can see you're smiling because we all love a good sweepstakes. So tell us about this new offer where 10 lucky teens, I understand, will win free college tuition, a full ride to SF State if they get the shot.
Well, what we're doing is those kids who are in our public school system, if they agree to get vaccinated, they can enter into a sweepstakes to win a full scholarship at San Francisco State University. Now, San Franciscans are 83% fully vaccinated, but kids ages 12 through 17 are over 90% vaccinated. And so the kids are leading the way. And this is just another incentive to get the rest of those young people to get vaccinated, but also to support and encourage the others that have got vaccinated. So it could be a great free ride through college, and we hope that more kids will get vaccinated as a result.
All right, considering tuition is over $7,000 a year, I think that is potentially a lot of money. How will the winner be? Who's eligible? Do you have to be a San Francisco resident in a San Francisco public school?
You have to be a San Francisco resident at any of the San Francisco public schools in our city ages 12 through 17.
Got it.
And so there are a number of sites that we put out, and they're being distributed to the kids and the parents in our schools so that they can register to become eligible to enter into the drawing.
Okay, good luck, everybody. Okay, speaking of vaccines, a big local story today. The In-N-Out Burger on Jefferson Street in San Francisco is back open now, but it was closed by the Department of Public Health because employees were not checking customers for vaccination proof. It is not opening for indoor dining right now, so people can do takeout and stuff. And the city sent out inspectors after getting a tip. We'll have the whole thing at 4 o'clock. But Mayor, I want to ask you, is this a first? Or how many other businesses have been shut down for not checking proof?
Well, from my understanding, this is one of the first. They refused to check proof, and in most cases, it's been really simple. People have been complying. Many of the businesses have been complying. But it's Restaurant Week in San Francisco. Do you know how many great places all over our city have amazing burgers besides In-N-Out? So I say, you know, get out there, go to some of our great restaurants, look at SF Restaurant Week in San Francisco, and go enjoy a burger at one of your local locations in your neighborhood.
Wow, I was wondering how you were going to get Restaurant Week SF in there, and that was a really good pivot. I was going to ask you if you've been eating out every night. All right, look, you know, I think that's a great message to eat local, shop local, and all that. But I do want to bring this back a little bit one more time to In-N-Out, because they released a statement saying, we fiercely disagree with any government dictate that forces a private company to discriminate against customers who choose to patronize their business. This is clear governmental overreach and is intrusive, improper, and offensive. That's what they say. Look, what do you say to that? You know, and do you acknowledge there's a burden?
Yeah, and I would just say everyone's entitled to their opinion, but none of us ever thought we'd be living through a global pandemic where hundreds of thousands of people will have died because of COVID. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to reopen, we're trying to keep people safe, and this is a public health crisis. And so that's what this is about. San Francisco has never done anything like this before, but there is a reason. Our public health experts have provided data and information and are helping us to make good decisions, which is why not only have San Francisco, one of the densest cities in the country, seen one of the lowest death rates of any other major city, we are seeing the highest vaccination rates with over 83% of San Franciscans fully vaccinated. So we're following the science. People have their opinions, but we're doing what we need to do to keep the public healthy and safe, and that's what this is about.
All right, and part of that involves your own employees in the city of San Francisco. You announced back in July that employees would have to be vaccinated, and you gave them till, I think, November 1st, right, to do so? Yeah. Right, okay. And you tweeted today that 96% are now vaccinated. That's great, but that still leaves over 1,400, I think, who aren't. Will you actually fire those who don't by the deadline? And if you do, aren't you concerned about a shortage in those departments?
Well, to be clear, we are grateful to the many employees of San Francisco who have been fully vaccinated, which I think is also one of the highest anywhere in the country. And the fact is, we made it clear that services will not be impacted if we have to take anything a step further. We are currently looking at each of those cases of those who have asked for an exemption. Everyone is entitled to a hearing, so we're going through the appropriate process, and we'll do what we need to do. But in addition to that, we're put in place systems, because this has been months in the making. We put in place systems so that we can move forward rapidly to rehire if there are vacancies, and also making sure that services are not interrupted for the public. So we appreciate those people who have been vaccinated. We're talking about 35,000 employees and 1,400 are not. I think that's pretty good. And as you can see, we're doing everything we can to get our city reopened. City employees are going to be returning to work November 1st, so we can improve on the services we already provide. So we're moving forward, and we're doing what we need to do because of public health, and any of the decisions we make have centered around that.
Look, I know you're working to hopefully not have to lose anyone, especially police officers and sheriff's deputies whom you're depending on as you battle crime. So I'm going to switch over to crime here, organized crime specifically. A high-profile case this past weekend when an Australian singer was held at gunpoint by thieves breaking into his car. What is the effort you're launching today to try to deter auto burglaries specifically?
Well, this has been a real challenge for us, but since we announced our tourism deployment system, a team back in July, we've seen a 37% reductions in car break-ins, and that's great, but it's also terrible for those who sadly have to experience those break-ins. And today we launched a reward of $100,000 for those folks who provide information leading to the arrest and prosecution of people who are committing these crimes, because and not just the people who are committing the crimes, but anyone involved in the selling and distribution of the products that are stolen, because we know that this is just bigger than just breaking in a car and finding things. It's like finding things that you can sell to someone who then sells it on a larger platform, sometimes online. That there's a market out there for this. So we're going to need a lot more help than locally here in San Francisco. We need state and federal support. And ultimately, this is just another incentive to try and get people to help us, to cooperate, to provide license plates or descriptions or other information. The last thing we want is somebody to get hurt, so we're not asking people to get involved. But more importantly, we want to make sure that we capture and prosecute and hold people accountable for these terrible crimes.
All right, Mayor, we'll continue to follow up with you on that, because obviously this is such an important both safety and quality of life issue that you're trying to address here. Also, you're trying to address two crises, I think, at once, with a new ordinance that would turn parking lots and garages into housing. Tell us about this program, I think called Cars to Casas.
Yes, we in San Francisco, it's so complicated and it takes so long to get anything built, especially housing, which is why it's so expensive. And so what we are doing is we're providing another tool that will eliminate a conditional use process. So if there's a parking lot, a garage, a car wash, or a gas station that can only be those things relevant to vehicles, we will allow through this process the ability to skip that conditional use process if there's an interest in building housing, so that we can speed up the process. And we're talking about anywhere between a 12 and 18 month time savings of getting housing built, and also making sure that you could at least build up to 4 units on those particular parcels.
All right, Mayor, we'll definitely watch that one closely as well. But in the meantime, don't think I didn't notice that you're wearing blue and gold. So I'm going to give you 10 seconds here to just say what you want to say about that tonight.
Yes, well, the Warriors, they kick off their new season. I know they got a number of games they're playing, but on Thursday it's going to start the season, and we are hopeful that they'll bring us a victory. And we're excited that Chase Center is going to be packed with fans that are vaccinated and having a good time. So the city is opening up. Outside lands will be Halloween weekend. It's going to be a great time in San Francisco. And again, it's because people are vaccinated that we're able to do so many great things.
All right, I know what you're doing tonight. Checking out Restaurant SF, Restaurant Week SF, picking up from a local restaurant, plopping down in front of your TV and cheering for the Warriors. Sounds like a plan. Thanks, Mayor.
Yes, that's the plan. Thank you so much.
All right, talk soon. All right, coming up, there's a movement growing up now in the push to mandate 4-day work weeks. Is it actually possible? We'll talk about that next.
In commercial break.
All right, everybody, great questions today. Tom, I'm sorry we couldn't ask the mayor your question because we had so many questions to get to, but the areas in San Francisco where you must wear a mask and what areas are optional. I think I can try to answer your question based on all that we've been reporting, which is San Francisco now says you don't have to wear a mask if you're in an indoor space where you know who's there. It's like a stable cohort, or you can confirm that those people have all been vaccinated, 100%, no exceptions. So it doesn't really work for a place where people are coming in and out, coming and going, like a retail, mall kind of thing. But if it's a gym, for example, where everybody has to show vaccine proof before entering the class, or membership, and they're vaccinated, then you can go maskless, right? So it's those indoor spaces where under 100 people, and they can confirm, and there's proof that everyone has been vaccinated. So there you go. So that was new as of last Friday. I hear it's going pretty well. But again, today the big story is that In-N-Out was closed for a few days because they were not checking. And they are taking a stand. They do not believe it's their responsibility as a business to check. They say it's discriminatory for them to say, hey, which customers we will serve and others we won't. While not most businesses have been shut down, many have said, you know, why is that our responsibility as a business? So that is, you know, something that is brought up as an issue by many businesses that, hey, we're in the business of pleasing customers, having to, I get it, you want to pass rules, that's cool, but for us to be the enforcers, that can be a little tough. So that is part of the conversation. All right.
6, 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2.
We've heard the conversation come up before, but is it time for a 4-day work week? Joining us now is Ryan Breslow, Stanford graduate and CEO of San Francisco-based Bolt. That's a tech company streamlining the checkout process for e-retailers like Forever 21. Good afternoon, Ryan. How are you doing?
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm doing fantastic.
All right. Well, a lot of your employees are saying it's fantastic because you are calling for a 4-day work week. I take it Bolt has adopted it. Tell us what the motivation is behind it.
Well, we always have pushed the envelope when it comes to building culture. We've pioneered what's called the conscious culture movement, having published our culture on conscious.org and solicited other companies to join our movement. And so for us, it's how do we maximize our time in work and also our time out of work so we live the most fulfilled lives possible, also having the most impact for ourselves, our shareholders, our investors as possible. And we believe a 4-day work week is the future, and it is how to do that.
Okay, so is this flexible where employees can choose which 4 days, or is it company-wide? We choose Monday through Thursday, for example. And is it 10 hours per day then, or is it still 8, or how does it work?
So Friday is the extra day off. The way it works is we say treat Fridays like a weekend. And so Friday is just like Saturday and Sunday. You know, you might do some work to catch up on your week's work, or you know, you could work on your weekends just like people do today, but don't expect collaboration. Don't put meetings on people's calendars. And so it's really a clear day. Assume your teammates are off with their families.
Okay, and then during Monday through Thursday, is there the expectation that people will work longer or no?
The expectation is Monday through Thursdays, we go all in. We have a saying which is work like lions, not like cows. A lot of cultures in the workplace are, you know, like cows. You're grazing all day, doing the same repetitive things over and over again. And frankly, it's a drag. And so instead, we say work like lions. Go on the hunt, pursue your objectives aggressively, go big, and make the most out of Monday through Thursday.
Got it. Okay. I feel like I work like a lion 5 days a week, but that's another question altogether. I wonder how the remote working factors into your equation here.
Well, our team is fully remote today. We're reopening offices soon, but we will still remain a remote first workplace.
Okay.
With the offices being more of a social environment.
Got it. All right. Hey, how about stress levels of employees? Since you started this, I realize it's relatively new. What's been the feedback?
So this is an experiment. It's a 3-month-long experiment, but the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive so far. 83% of employees report 1 month in having a surge in productivity, increased productivity. 86% of employees report improvement in their work-life balance. And 95% of employees say that they're in favor of continuing a 4-day work week.
All right. Obviously, you know, for anyone who's in a business, they're also there to make money. Do you ultimately think this will be good business and resulting in you getting the best employees and making the most money? Absolutely.
We want to build one heck of a business. And we have, you know, some of the strongest growth in Silicon Valley. We've 18x'd our valuation in the last 18 months. We're in the top percentile in terms of growth of companies, and we're going to keep that up. Our investors expect us to keep it up. In fact, we're telling investors that our growth is going to even accelerate. And so we made this move not to work less, but to work smarter, more efficiently with higher productivity, and overall be able to have more fun and enjoyment while we do the work.
All right, Ryan, speaking of fun, you're doing something else that involves dancing. We'll take a short break on the air, but continue that conversation about that on Facebook Live.
Awesome.
All right, so here we are in commercial, but we can wrap up this conversation on Facebook Live here. We have a couple minutes. So, yeah, this is something else that you believe in. It's called The Movement, and I understand they're dance classes. Tell me about that.
So dance has played a really big role in my life. It was my escape, my safety net as I was building Bolt through many tough days. And I think dance can save the world. When you get people on their feet and moving over their fear of what they might look like in front of other people and create a willingness to look silly, you do something really special in someone's mindset. And so I believe we all need to get dancing. And the movement is my nonprofit organization that I started earlier this year, which we have a simple goal, which is to get as many people dancing as possible.
So are there free dance classes that people can join, or who is it for?
Yeah, we do free dance classes. We remove all of the barriers to dance. So we have super beginner classes to remove the barrier of expertise so anybody can get started. And then dance classes could be expensive. They could be $20, $30, $40. And so our nonprofit raises money. I funded a lot of it personally to fund free dance classes for the community, so you can show up and anybody can now learn how to dance.
Awesome. So where do people learn more about this and find classes near them?
themvmt.org, or you can go to @themovement, spelled correctly, on Instagram, and there you can find our list of classes. We're in Miami and New York right now. We're expanding to San Francisco, LA, and New Orleans very soon.
All right, Ryan Breslow, thank you so very much. CEO of Bolt, 4-day work week. Let us know how it goes, all right?
Will do.
Take care.
10, 9, 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thanks so much for joining us on Getting Answers. Today we cover the latest COVID-19 headlines with Dr. Monica Gandhi, and we talk with San Francisco Mayor London Breed. And we looked at the idea of 4-day work weeks. We'll see you back here at 4 o'clock. World News Tonight is next.